In our lives, amidst the storms and sunsets, there lies an invisible path. It's a path God crafts for each one of us, often in ways we can't see or understand. But it's there, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. Brothers and sisters, there are times we all feel lost, unsure of the road ahead. Yet the Bible reminds us in 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." It may seem dark now, but just as dawn follows the darkest hour, God has a plan for you. Think of all those moments when it seemed too tough to move on, but with prayer and faith, you found a way. Why? Because in Isaiah 40 verse 31, it is written, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." So, let us hold on to that faith. Even when we can't see the path, even when doubts cloud our hearts, remember Romans 8 verse 24. "For in this hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have?" So let us be patient, for God's perfect time is worth the wait. Every one of us, as we journey through life, encounters challenges that shake the very core of our being. Imagine those days when your body feels weak, weighed down by health issues, leaving you praying and seeking God's healing touch. Or the nights you've spent wondering how the bills will get paid, as financial difficulties seem like mountains you can't climb. Relationships, which are meant to be the source of our joy, can sometimes bring us tears and heartaches. And then there are those silent moments when you're all alone, wrestling with personal doubts, questioning your worth and purpose. In the face of these challenges, it's natural for our hearts to race, for our minds to be filled with thoughts of anxiety. We often hurry, wanting quick solutions, quick escapes from our pain. We act in haste, wanting to run ahead of God's plan, driven by our impatience. But in our rush, we might miss the lessons and blessings that come from waiting. Think about Abraham and Sarah. They were promised a child, a lineage as numerous as the stars. But the years rolled on, and Sarah's arms remained empty. Their story in Genesis 17 verse 17 tells us of Sarah's laughter, a sign of her disbelief. But God's promise was not bound by human limitations. Isaac, their son of promise, came at God's perfect time, teaching us that God's promises are worth the wait. Remember Joseph? He was given dreams of greatness, only to find himself in a pit, sold into slavery, and later thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. But God was with him, and in his time, Joseph's path led him to be the Pharaoh's trusted advisor, saving many during a time of famine. Genesis 39 verse 2 says, "The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man." From the pit to the palace, Joseph's story reminds us that waiting can lead us to unexpected places of blessing. And how can we forget the Israelites? Freed from slavery, they found themselves wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. It was a journey of learning, of waiting, of trusting in God's provision. Numbers 14 verse 34 mentions the 40 years they spent, a year for each day they had explored the promised land. Though they faced trials, in the end, they reached a land flowing with milk and honey. Dear brothers and sisters, these stories from the Bible are not just tales from the past. They're our reminders. Reminders that God's plans are bigger than our present troubles. That waiting, though it might seem hard, brings us closer to God's blessings. Our challenges today, whether it be health, money, relationships, or personal doubts, are just seasons. And in every season, there's a reason to trust, to wait, and to believe that God will make a way. So let's hold on and wait upon the Lord. Life, with its ups and downs, often leaves us puzzled. We wonder why certain things happen when they do, or why some prayers seem unanswered. But to truly grasp the nature of our journey, we need to step back and try to see things from a different viewpoint, God's perspective. Have you ever stood on a mountaintop or looked down from a tall building? From up there, everything looks so small, so connected. That's a bit like how God sees our life, but on an even grander scale. Psalms 90 verse 2 says, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." What this tells us is that God's view stretches from the very beginning to the very end. He doesn't just see our today, He knows our yesterday and our tomorrow. Our lives, in God's eyes, are like a tapestry. Now, if you've ever seen the back of a tapestry, it's messy. There are knots, loose threads, and it seems chaotic. That's often how we see our lives, especially during tough times. But God is looking at the other side of that tapestry, the side where every thread, every color comes together to make a beautiful picture. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." We might see chaos, but God sees a masterpiece in the making. Now, trusting this bigger picture, especially when we're in pain or confusion, isn't easy. Even Jesus, when he was here on earth, had moments of deep anguish. In the Garden of Gethsemane, knowing the cross awaited him, Jesus cried out, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Imagine that for a moment. Jesus, the Son of God, felt the weight of what lay ahead. But in his love for us and his trust in the Father, he chose God's will over his own feelings. Sometimes understanding won't come immediately. We won't always get why things happen the way they do. Proverbs 3 verse 5 encourages us with these words, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." It doesn't say to trust only when things make sense or only when times are good. It calls for an unwavering trust, a trust that believes God is in control, even when life feels out of control. Remember when Peter stepped out of the boat onto the water? He did the impossible because his eyes were fixed on Jesus. But the moment he looked at the storm around him, he began to sink. Our focus determines our reality. If we focus only on our problems, on our questions, we'll feel like we're sinking. But if we focus on God, trusting Him beyond our understanding, we'll find the strength to walk on water, to face every storm. Brothers and sisters, God's timing is perfect. His plans for us are good, even if right now all we see are the knots and tangles. With hearts full of trust, let's choose to believe in His infinite perspective, remembering always that while our view is limited, God sees the beautiful design of our lives. Please lean on Him, knowing that even when understanding is out of reach, His love and purpose for us never waver. In a world that often glorifies the immediate, where fast food and instant gratification are the norms, waiting can seem like a challenging task. But, dear brothers and sisters, waiting upon the Lord is more than just a passive passing of time. It brings with it a wealth of blessings, some of which we'll delve into today. Have you ever noticed how the most precious things often take time? Diamonds form under pressure. Pearls grow slowly within oysters, and the most fragrant flowers take time to bloom. Similarly, the waiting seasons of our lives are often the times when our character is molded, refined, and strengthened. James, in his letter to the early Christians, writes, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. What a profound truth! When we face challenges and learn to wait with hope, we develop perseverance. And this perseverance shapes us, making us mature in our faith, teaching us patience, resilience, and trust in God's plan. Have you ever tried to force two pieces of a puzzle to fit when they clearly don't belong together? It feels awkward, and no matter how hard you try, they won't align. Our lives, when we rush or try to force our plans, can feel like those mismatched puzzle pieces. But when we wait, something beautiful happens. We start to align ourselves with God's will and purpose for our lives. Scripture reminds us in Proverbs 19, verse 21, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." When we are aligned with God, the weight of uncertainty becomes lighter. There's a peace that surpasses human understanding. There's a joy that doesn't depend on external circumstances. And there's a sense of fulfillment, knowing that we're walking the path God has laid out for us. Everyone loves a good story, especially stories that have challenges, waiting periods, and then a triumphant ending. When we wait upon the Lord, and He makes a way where there seemed to be no way, our lives become such stories, powerful testimonies of God's faithfulness. The psalmist declares, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry." Imagine the impact of sharing such testimonies with others. It's not just about what God did, but about the journey, the waiting, the moments of doubt, and then the glorious breakthrough. Your story of waiting, dear believer, can become a beacon of hope for others. When they see how you held on, how you trusted, and how God came through for you, it encourages them to hold on a little longer, trust a little deeper. Your testimony can have a ripple effect, touching and transforming lives, motivating others to remain patient and steadfast in their faith. Think of the woman with the issue of blood in Mark 5, verses 25 to 34. She had suffered for 12 long years, but when she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, she was instantly healed. Her testimony was so powerful that it's still being shared today, inspiring countless believers to reach out in faith, no matter how long they've been waiting. Waiting is more than just the passage of time. It's a season of growth, of alignment, and of powerful testimonies. So, the next time you find yourself in a waiting season, remember these blessings. Embrace the lessons, stay aligned with God, and get ready to share a testimony that will inspire generations. Waiting on God is never in vain. It's an investment in a future filled with His promises and blessings. Now, waiting can be a challenge, but it also provides an opportunity to grow in our faith and character. Here are some practical tips to navigate and make the most out of your waiting season. Deepen your relationship with God. The waiting period is a golden chance to draw God closer. Spend more time in prayer, talking to Him about your worries, hopes, and dreams. Meditate on His promises. Dive deep into scriptures to understand His heart better. David, during his trying times, wrote many psalms where he poured out his raw emotions. Yet, amidst the pain and confusion, he always expressed his deep trust in God. In Psalm 62, verse 5, David says, "Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him." Follow David's example. Use the waiting time to find rest and hope in God's presence. Waiting on God's timing doesn't mean you stand still. Just like faith without works is dead, waiting without activity might lead to stagnation. Remember Noah? God told him a flood was coming. Noah didn't just sit and wait. He actively built the ark, even when there was no sign of rain. As written in Hebrews 11, verse 7, "By faith Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. Similarly, find ways to stay active in your faith. Engage in community service, join church activities, or even enroll in a personal development class. As you work, you're preparing for the blessings ahead. Seek godly counsel. The people you surround yourself with can influence your perspective, especially during the waiting seasons. It's essential to have faith-filled, positive individuals around you. These are the people who will pray with you, encourage you, and remind you of God's promises when you're feeling down. Proverbs 27 verse 17 tells us, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Find that friend or mentor who can be your iron, someone who will keep your spirit sharp and focused on God during the waiting. In conclusion, waiting can indeed be tough, but with the right perspective and actions, it can be a transformative season in our lives. Deepen your relationship with God, stay active in your faith, and seek out godly counsel. These steps will not only help you navigate the waiting period, but will also help you prepare for the blessings that God has in store. Just remember, God's delays are not His denials. He's preparing something beautiful for you. Just hold on, trust, and keep moving forward in faith.